What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Pepe today. Hit that like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it, okay? You had a massive pump this week. It's the 10th of May today. We got about 1 day, 21 hours left in the week here. Massive pump this week, up 54% right now, up more than that overall. You had a high of 40s, 1397, essentially 404. You're at 40s, 124 right now, pulling back a little bit. There's some interesting things that I want to talk about, both in the short term and the long term, okay? Some good things and some not so good things. Some things that you need to be aware of as far as the potential downside risk goes, okay? Pepe is a $5.23 billion meme coin, is what it is. And there was a lot of volume that happened over the past 24 hours. Over the past week, there's been a lot of volume, really. I think this thing has a lot of potential. I think that it will continue to grow. As far as coins go in crypto right now, I don't see it as having too much potential. I don't see it having average potential. Let me put it that way. The average expectation, if we go here, if we look at the others chart, we look at it here. And maybe I should have saved this for after I say the good things. Sometimes I like to say the good things first and then hit you with the bad things. But the average expectation from here, if we take a high to low, would be that the others chart goes to the 2272 and probably just above there, around $6 trillion. I think between the top 125 cryptos, we will surmount a price that is, or a market cap that is about $6 trillion, excluding the top 10. We're at a $3 trillion market cap now across the whole board, including the top 10. Excluding the top 10 by the end of the cycle, I think that the top 125 will achieve $6 trillion. I think that we will reach the 2272 in correspondence with Bitcoin, right? That's about a 25x. Okay, so the average altcoin in the top 125 is going to see about a 25x, okay? 25x. Pepe, being at a $5.25 billion market cap, a 20x puts it at $100 billion. There's no meme coin ever in history that's ever seen a market cap higher than $90 billion, let alone 100 or higher. Dogecoin is the only meme coin ever that's seen a 90 billion or higher market cap before. And that was in its third bull cycle. Now, it's not going to take 3 bull cycles for every single meme coin to ever do that, right? I think once you pave the way, it becomes easier, right? It's like the first millionaire. That took a lot for the first person who was ever a millionaire in the history of the world. But then all the ones that happened subsequently afterwards have gotten easier, and as more and more come, it just gets easier and easier, right? It's the same kind of idea here. Whenever you hit $100 billion market cap, that's a first, and that was an accomplishment. And for Dogecoin to get to 90 billion, it took 3 cycles. I don't think it'll take Pepe 3 cycles. Maybe next cycle we'll see that. Maybe we won't. Meme coins are here and there. You never know. But what I don't expect is that we'll see a $100 billion market cap. And at a $5 billion market cap times 20, that gives you 100 billion. So not even a 20x is possible with this thing. The average altcoin we've established is going to see like a 24, 25x. So not financial advice, not a financial advisor. If you're investing in Pepe thinking that you're going to outperform the rest of the pack, you might get left behind, or at least not perform as average. One could argue that, with this move, if it wasn't for this move, you would be moving up with the average altcoin, because then here, what would that be? Let's see, an overall 25x. If you started, if we were still at this price, if it wasn't for the movement up this week already, maybe you will perform on average with the average altcoin. Let's see. And that could be true. That could be true. Maybe you do see a 24x overall from the low here, and you've gotten an early start on everything else. But still, from the current price, I just don't expect that we will see anything that's above a 20x. I think a 15x sounds about right, or less, if you are to see new all-time highs. So we can go over that right now, what I think about that. Let's actually type in Pepe here, because I want to leave up the Binance chart for the reason of volume. Okay, Pepe here. All right, here we go. So if we see new all-time highs, not when, if, because there's a big if here, and there's something that we need to address to the bearish side, okay, that could really shake things up, and not in a good way, guys. You've got a very bearish pattern set up right now, and we'll go over that in a second. But if we do continue going higher, and I'll show you where we would invalidate this bearish pattern too. But if we were to see new all-time highs, the immediate targets that I would consider would be something between about 408 to 3015, 3012. I don't believe we get to 302. Something to 30126 to 30153. Something in there is possible. If not, at potentially at a minimum 408. Something in that area there. So by the end of the cycle, Pepe, from its current price, at the most, in my opinion, it has 12x potential. Whereas the average altcoin has double that, essentially, in growth potential. So I'm really not attracted to this thing as far as an investment goes, and as far as meme coins go too, right? Meme coins, the goal is to get them to be $1 billion. This thing's already at 5 billion. It's not. I promise you, it's not going to be worth $100 billion by the end of the cycle. And even if it was, even if it got to $100 billion itself, which no meme coin has ever done, you think this one's going to do it in its first cycle? I doubt it. Even if it did a $100 billion market cap from here, that's still not even a 20x. That's still underperforming the average altcoin. You see what I'm saying? It's likely it's not gonna see these kind of prices unless there's some kind of burn initiated or some kind of crazy thing that nobody's expecting, which you never know. Crazy things can happen, but here's the deal. And the reason why we're looking at it on the Binance chart here, the Binance USDT chart, is we have a very, very bearish pattern, a very, very bearish setup here, and it's a head and shoulders pattern, a slanted head and shoulders pattern. We know it's slanted because of the lows, okay? You've got the lows here. We know it's slanted there. It's a little bit slanted. And most head and shoulders patterns, especially in crypto, from what I've noticed, they are slanted. But it's perfect. I don't think I could ask for a more perfect head and shoulders pattern, quite literally. And does it start here? Does it start back here? I don't know. You know what I mean? And this is where it gets a little bit tricky. But what I would say is if you can't get above these highs here, which you basically are not right now, I would think that that this validates the head and shoulders idea. There's still a little bearish hope that this could be a head and shoulders pattern if you're not taking out this high, but if it is a slanted head and shoulders pattern, odds are even if you got to this high, you wouldn't have to break above this high. If you got to that high, it would invalidate the pattern, because if it's slanted to the downside, this high should be slightly lower than that high too. So you could go a little bit higher, maybe find resistance here. I don't know where the left shoulder started, but looking at the pattern here, if this was the left shoulder, that's your head, that's your right shoulder, you know what I mean? It looks pretty appropriate. The reason we're using this chart is because there's volume on it, and the volume, you can see, matches the head and shoulders profile perfectly. The volume is decaying as time goes on. Yes, you have a little blip here, but on average, right, the volume is decaying, right? These 4 weeks of volume here, even with that blip in the week, are probably less than these like 4 weeks, 5 weeks of volume here, right? Altogether. That's what I'm saying here. And generally speaking, as head and shoulders patterns develop, you do see a steady decline in volume. If this is a head and shoulders pattern, if it is, the measure move would be something on the lines of, you know, an 80% drop from the low. If we were to break out, let's just say we break out from here, we'll take it from the price, not the neckline itself because it's slanted, but that would earmark you for prices that are all the way down at 501. You're at 401 right now. That's a pretty crazy drop. I'm not saying that I expect this to happen. In fact, I don't expect this to happen. This is why it's saved for the end of the video. I do expect that Pepe will see new all-time highs. I do expect that, but this is something you need to be aware of, okay? This is a big pattern. This is something you need to be aware of. And where you found resistance so far, and with the volume so far, it all fits. It all fits the slanted head and shoulders pattern, and it looks perfect, okay? Head and shoulders patterns, even if they look perfect, they're not a perfect thing. You can absolutely continue to go up, but they are defined as being at the top of a move, which you are, and looking exactly the way that it does now with volume that steadily decreases like this, and it is steadily decreasing. So if you want to invalidate this pattern, what I would say from a high to a low here using our fibs, I would say that you need to close any given week above about 4015. Do that. Close above there, right? That would help invalidate it, because once you close above your golden ratio, if you ever do close above your golden ratio, once you do, wicking up there and then getting below is not the same thing. If you close above there, likely you will at least encounter these price areas. And if you encounter these price areas at all, that head and shoulders pattern is invalidated. Absolutely, you're going to new all-time highs. So just based on the fibs, closing above your golden ratio normally allows you to gain access to these areas and even beyond, right? It's a very big deal to close above your golden ratio on a weekly time frame. If you wick above there, then come back below, that could just be validating that this is, in fact, a head and shoulders pattern, that you are going lower, right? I'm not completely sure as to where this pattern started, right? It's hard to say. Did it start back here? If it started back here, I would say then you've already invalidated the pattern, because it's slanted to the downside and then this is slanted to the upside. Doesn't make any sense. But if it starts back here, you know, it kind of looks right. It kind of looks right. So I think that closing above 4015 is essential. Technically, 40149 is essential. Okay, that's what you need to do. And I think you will, but let's see if we can validate that, right? Looking at this on a weekly time frame here, the weekly RSI is bouncing off the oversold zone. You've got these nice lower lows, these nice lower highs, and you've got a lot of room to run, right? Even if you reject the overbought zone, even if you don't get some penetration and get through the overbought zone, you've got higher to run on a weekly time frame, and that would likely take you higher than this. So that's nice, right? If you want to validate this as a head and shoulders, we talked about invalidating. Let's talk about validating. I suppose at this point, what I need to see is any kind of daily close or weekly close below about what price is that? That's 50782. If you get below the 236 here, the red line, it's game over. Okay, 5 zeros, and truthfully too, I wouldn't want to see you even get below 401 because that's where your 382 is. I wouldn't even want to see that happen. But 50782, don't go below there, because if you do, it's certainly game over at that point. You can go below there on the price, you just don't want to close below there, right? Anyways, looking at the daily time frame, let's wind it down a little bit here. Weekly RSI, to me, it says you're not stopping here. It says you're just getting started. That's my expectation. That's some pretty good volume too in a 24-hour period. Okay, daily time frame. Daily time frame looks bullish as hell. You got pretty overbought, right? You're at the 85 right now. A little bit of a wick yesterday, a lot of volume. There's probably some selling pressure going on. If we look at where this wick took us to from the high here, it was right at a prior area of resistance, so and kind of at a prior area of support. So it makes sense that you'd find resistance here, right? If we take this relative high, that's a nice double bottom too, by the way. If we take this high to low here, this fib extension, he stops right at the 1886. A lot of cryptos have been doing that lately, so I don't have a problem with this. Here you are below the golden ratio. My expectation would be, it's the weekend. You just had a massive pump. You probably cool off on the RSI a little bit. You probably cool off on the price a bit. I would expect you find support at the 1272 at about 40105, right at these prior areas of resistance, confirming it as support and then building higher. Absolutely, I think you're going to build higher. So, again, not financial advice, not a financial advisor, but hold above, ideally hold above 401, but it's that 50732, I think is what it is, that number that you really need to hold above. If you go below here, it's fine. It's not the end of the world, but my expectation would be that you hold this area, 401, hold that as support, go right to that area, and then you'll continue upwards and onwards. My next target for you would be somewhere around 4018, probably. You'd probably go just above the 2272 here, if not all the way to the 2618 at 402. 4018 to 402, somewhere in this area, that's your next target, and you'll probably achieve that by the end of this month. I wouldn't be surprised at all if you achieve that by the end of this month. From here, without the drop, that's about a another 40% to 58%, right, over the coming weeks. So glorious, glorious, glorious. And if you do that, of course, that will validate the notion that you will see new all-time highs. But if you do anything that's worse than what we're expecting here on this next drop, we might have a whole nother video to talk about next week. But I got nothing else for you guys now. I've explained all the details. I've given you the rundown as to what I expect to happen, right? Hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. Bearish divergence on the 4-hour kind of confirms the idea that you might find resistance now. That's fine, right? It's the weekend, whatever. Bearish divergence on the 1-hour. Yeah, you'll probably move down. It's fine. Don't be scared. Just don't FOMO here. If there's one message that I could give you, it would be, this is a horrible time to buy. This is a really bad. I don't know if the being up 54% this week makes it obvious, but it's not a good time to buy. So wait it out. If you really want to FOMO into the green frog, just wait a couple of days. I bet you'll be happy you did. Not financial advice, not a financial advisor. Do whatever you want. Even if you buy here, I'm sure that in time we will grow higher. Unless this is a head and shoulders pattern and we do reject. But again, I'm not talking about it so much that I believe it's going to happen that we're going to go down. I'm just putting it on your radar because there's not too common of a common. It's not a common thing to see head and shoulders patterns, right? There's a lot of false ones, a lot of lookalikes, but they're not quite there. This is pretty damn perfect. So I'm not taking it completely seriously, but we should take it under consideration at the very least, right? So just be aware of that. I've given you the parameters to search for, to invalidate it, to validate it, what we do and what we don't want to see, and the targets for the upside if we go there, and even the downside if we go there. So I got nothing else for you guys. Hit the like button, subscribe. I very much do believe that over the weeks, over the months to come, Pepe will continue to grow. I just think it's going to underperform the average altcoin. And if I'm wrong, Pepe will be the first meme coin to ever hit $100 billion in its first bull cycle, but I don't see that happening, guys. All right, take care. Bye.